David Menzies for Rebel News here in Toronto. Well, folks, I'm standing outside Ontario Place, and I got to tell you, anyone that grew up in Toronto in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they have fond memories of this park that first opened half a century ago in 1971. But things started to run aground, and in 2012, it was permanently shut down, and this former gem on the lakefront, it sat derelict until, well, here's a little good news, I think, along with a little bad news. Just last week, the Doug Ford Progressive Conservative government announced plans that at long last they are going to redevelop Ontario Place. And you know, that sounds fantastic. There are 3 private sector companies that are going to kick in $500 million to build water slides, pools, a botanical garden. Sounds terrific, but here's the troubling thing, folks. When Premier Ford was asked questions about how much taxpayer dollars are going to go into the revitalization of Ontario Place, he wouldn't say. He was evasive, and I'm thinking, wait a second, is this the same man who, along with his brother, the late great Rob Ford, used to run on the slogan, respect for taxpayers? Well, come on, if these are our dollars going into it, why the lack of transparency? Also, what I found odd was the very last statement at the end of the stories that were lauding this renovation of Ontario Place, the fact that it will not open until 2027, or perhaps more likely 2030 yet, so almost a decade away. And really, when you look at it, the Budweiser stage, the pods, the Cinesphere, these are all structures that are going to be renovated. They're not building from scratch. Why, oh why, does it take government so long to build things? As we spoke about a few months ago when a bridge in Toronto opened, a pedestrian cyclist bridge, no less, opened after 10 years. We compared that to the likes of the CN Tower, 40 months, the Golden Gate Bridge, just over 4 years, heck, Maple Leaf Gardens, just under 8 months. Why is it that when government is involved, a project goes at not at the speed of light, not at the speed of sound, but basically at the speed of molasses going uphill in wintertime? And you know, I'd really like to see the restoration of this once former gem come back to Toronto. I mean, for a couple of years, 82 and 83, I actually worked here cutting the grass all summer long. I'd sure like to lay on the grass and watch the various boats go by and do other things that the planners have in mind. But I'm just wondering, am I going to live that long? For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, the mainstream media might be cutting back its coverage during this time of COVID-19. Not us. We love to get out in the field and bring you the other side of the story, but it does come at a bit of a cost. So if you can kindly support our efforts by going to rebelfieldreports.com, that's rebelfieldreports.com. If you're able to kick in $1 or $3 as a donation, we would greatly appreciate that.